Everyone for participating. This webinar jointly organized by Malaysian Investment Development Authority, MIDA, and Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association, MSIA. A gentle reminder before we start, we have created a chat box for the purpose of posting up your questions. Kindly feel free to use this feature, and the panelists will try their best to answer your questions accordingly. Try not to unmute yourself so that we can have this webinar going on smoothly. So good morning to all of you again, and good evening if you are joining us from other parts of the world. My name is Xiaoli from Great Tech, and I will be host for today. This morning, we are delighted to have several prominent leaders joining us in this dialogue on the topic, seizing the next wave of E&E investment into Malaysia. The electrical and electronics E&E industry is a key driver of Malaysia's industrial development and contributes significantly to GDP growth, export earnings, investment, and employment. Malaysia being a key player in the fast expanding E&E market, its major export destinations include US, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, and Europe. Today, we want to dive deeper into our discussion on how Malaysia can ride on this opportunity to bring this E&E investment to the country. Without further ado, we want to kickstart the event with an opening speech by the President of MSIA, Dato Sri S.H. Wong. Dato Sri S.H. Wong is famously known as our veteran for the E&E industry. Besides championing the E&E productivity nexus, Dato Sri S.H. Wong is also a member of Pemuda, a public-private sector special task force to facilitate business and improve Malaysia's global competitiveness. He was with Intel for 27 years, and his last held position in the company was the Vice President of Technology and Manufacturing Group, TMG, and General Manager of Assembly and Test Manufacturing, ATM. Please join me to welcome Dato Sri S.H. Wong. Over to you, Dato Sri.
Thank you very much, Xiaoli, for the introduction. Encik Arham Abdul Rahman, Chief Executive Officer, Malaysia Investment Development Authority, Kusharan Singh, Senior Vice President of Global Back-End Operations, Micron Technology, Singapore, Kok Tiong, Senior Vice President and Managing Director, Infineon Technology, Kulim, and Jürgen Naidu Sivanshalam, Country Managing Director, Texas Instrument Malaysia, Berhad. Dato S.H. Peng, Vice President and Managing Director, Manufacturing Operations, First Solar Malaysia, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association, I would like to extend a warm welcome and selamat datang to everyone. Firstly, I want to thank our keynote speaker, Encik Arham, and our panelists, Ghosh, Katie, Jürgen, and our moderator, Dato Peng, for your participation at today's webinar. The topic we are discussing today is seizing the next wave of E&E investment into Malaysia. It is a timely to discuss this as many semiconductor companies are announcing plans for expansion, to develop new technologies, and to invest in additional production capacity to meet the growth in the semiconductors. Approximately 7% of total global semiconductor trade flows through Malaysia. Malaysia is now a critical hub in the semiconductor global supply chain. Last year, Malaysia's E&E exports was 386 billion, accounting for 39.4% of Malaysia's total export. And this first 6 months of this year, 2021, the E&E exports grew 28% year over year. According to the World Semiconductor Trade Statistics, the worldwide semiconductor market is expected to grow 25% this year and another 10% next year. The global semiconductor market is expected to grow to 551 billion in 2021 and is projected to grow to 606 billion in 2022. the outlook for the sector continues to be very positive. The E&E industry is the golden goose of Malaysia. We must seize the opportunity to nurture it and grow, bring in more investment to Malaysia, attract high quality investment to Malaysia, and move the Malaysia E&E sector up the value chain. MSIA believes Malaysia has lots to offer as a location, and it has nearly 50 years of experience in the E&E industry. We have a business-friendly government that's willing to listen to the industry and work through the problems faced by the industry, especially during this pandemic. For your information, the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association was formed in January 2021, and we currently have more than 130 members. Our members are not just from Malaysia, we have members from the US, Europe, Japan, China, Canada, Taiwan, and a total of 15 countries. MSIA's 4 main objectives are to enhance the semiconductor ecosystem, to encourage more companies to go up the value chain, to be the collective voice of the semiconductor and electronics industry, and to collaborate with the government to improve Malaysia's global competitiveness in the electronics industry. In closing, MSIA would like to thank MIDA for jointly organizing today's webinar. I thank you for your attendance today, and I hope you will have a lively and engaging discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sri S.H. Wong, for the opening speech. Next, we will have the CEO of MIDA, Encik Arham Abdul Rahman, to deliver his keynote speech. To give you a brief introduction of Encik Arham, he has been with MIDA for 32 years and has been actively promoting Malaysia as an investment destination during his overseas assignments in MIDA Cologne, Germany, and MIDA New York, USA. Encik Arham was promoted to be the CEO recently in April 2021 after serving as the Deputy Chief Executive Officer for 3 years. Please join me to welcome Encik Arham. Over to you, Encik Arham.
Thank you, Ms. Xiao Li. Datuk Sri Wong Siu Hai, the President of Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association, MSIA, Datuk Peng Su Hong, the Vice President and Managing Director of Manufacturing Operation of First Solar, Mr. Gusharan Singh, Senior Vice President for Global Back-End Operations, Micron Technology, Mr. Ng Kok Tiong, the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Infineon Technologies, Kulim, Mr. Yogan Naidu Sivanchalam, the Country Managing Director, Texas Instruments, Malaysia, Senjan Berhad, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. I hope everyone joining in today is safe and in good health. The Malaysian Investment Development Authority of MIDA and the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association have been working closely through several collaborative programs to equip our stakeholders with the latest knowledge on doing business in Malaysia, particularly in the electrical electronics industry. I am pleased that both organizations continue to focus on adding value to our stakeholders, especially during the current challenges. My address today will cover 3 key areas. Firstly, the impact of COVID-19 on the Malaysian economy, particularly on the E&E industry. Secondly, I will touch on Malaysia's strategic investment initiatives and the National Recovery Plan. And last but not least, looking beyond the current uncertainties toward growth and opportunities for E&E companies in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia is a major global manufacturing hub for the E&E industry. To date, Malaysia produced 13% of the global back-end semiconductor output, and that accounts for 40% of Malaysian export. In 2020, Malaysia's E&E industry exported product worth 386 billion ringgit Malaysia, or 39.4% of all manufactured goods. This is an increase of 3.5% from the previous year, retaining its position as among the top 5 contributors to Malaysia's manufacturing export for the last 5 years. While the pandemic has greatly impacted the investment inflow to most ASEAN countries, including Malaysia, our nation's resilience and strong economic fundamentals have paid off. In 2020, a total of 148 E&E projects with investment of 15.6 billion ringgit Malaysia were approved. Of the total, 53 represent new projects with investment of 5.4 billion, while the remaining 95 were expansion and diversification projects with investment worth 10.2 billion ringgit Malaysia. So this momentum continued into the first half 2021, whereby the E&E sector recorded 47.1 billion ringgit Malaysia in approved investment, surge of 843% from the corresponding period last year. Foreign investments led the approved investment in industry, making up nearly 98% or 46 billion ringgit Malaysia. So these approved projects are anticipated to generate over 9,700 new jobs, including skilled positions for engineers, specialized quality controllers, and highly skilled technicians. The government continues working to introduce more effective strategies to activate market vitality and, most importantly, maintain the momentum of the E&E industry on the road to recovery post-COVID-19. For the past 50 years, we have created a comprehensive E&E ecosystem, particularly for front-end to back-end semiconductor manufacturing activities. A large number of multinational companies or MNCs have established their operations here. These include industry giants such as Intel, Infineon, Micron, Texas Instruments, and ST Micro. Our local players are also joining the race to be integrated into the global value chain. Malaysian companies have been persistently building up their competency and presence by providing products and services required by MNCs in the country and internationally. Among local champions are names the like of Custom, Globetronics, and Inari. These domestic companies serve clients in the automotive, consumer, power management, industrial, and medical device segment, providing the design and engineering services, customizable solutions ranging from IC design, engineering and testing, IC packaging, as well as manufacturing of modules, system devices, and finished product. Today, more Malaysian companies have started their business after gaining technical expertise while serving the MNCs. The exposure has allowed Malaysian players to identify emerging opportunities within the E&E value chain to create their own niche. The increased participation of local companies further improves Malaysian trade performance and reduce the currency outflow. Ladies and gentlemen, the unpredictable onset of COVID-19 and the subsequent movement restrictions on people, goods, and technology suppliers have affected companies across the industries. Companies had to adhere to new manufacturing SOPs to ensure safe production environment. Even though these measures have seen a potential increase in cost of doing business, they are necessary to ensure businesses are safe to open and workers' safety are prioritized, balancing between the economy and health. Sadly, this has resulted in missed production deadlines and productivity targets impacting business plans. On the hindsight, it has also created a new normal that has forced companies to relook at their current business practice and adopt agile and remote production using Industry 4.0 technology to avoid further disruption. Today, Malaysia is on track to achieve the vaccination rate of 80% of our adult population by October 2021. Let me share with you, as at September 2021, PICAS, the vaccination program, a collaboration between government and companies, has vaccinated about 944,712, or about 96.5% of workers with the first dose, out of which 747 workers, or 82%, have received the second dose. Companies are encouraged to vaccinate their workers under this program by applying to MIDA. It is hoped that with all these measures in place, Malaysia would be able to gain its economic recovery by November 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you on the National Recovery Plan. This National Recovery Plan, or NRP in short, which is divided into 4 phases, will see the gradual opening of economic sectors. The E&E industry has been classified as an essential sector and was given the exemption to operate since the first movement control implementation in March 2020. This is because the industry is a catalyst sector that cuts across various industries, particularly in producing parts and components crucial to fight COVID-19, such as ventilators and other medical devices. Various stimulus packages, namely Penjana, were introduced to continue supporting new and existing industry players and promoting the development of industries in Malaysia. For the E&E industry, this includes facilitation to ramp up production of industries such as wafer fabrication and advanced IC packaging, particularly with the global chip shortages. Among the proactive and responsive measures tailored to improve Malaysia's industrial competitiveness include 0% of the tax rate for 10 years for new investment in manufacturing sector with capital investment between 300 to 500 million ringgit Malaysia, 0% tax rate for 15 years for new investment in manufacturing sector with capital investment above 500 million ringgit Malaysia. We also offer 100% investment tax allowance for 5 years for existing companies in Malaysia relocating overseas facilities in Malaysia with capital investment above 300 million ringgit Malaysia. A special reinvestment allowance for manufacturing and selected agriculture activity was also introduced for year 2020 and financial year 2021, as well as the enhancement of the domestic investment strategic fund to support domestic companies. So the massive allocation for strategic pockets of the economy is necessary to help businesses and industries to retain workers, meet market demands, and remain operational beyond the current economic climate. This will also position Malaysia as an attractive site for quality investment destination despite the global economic uncertainties. Additionally, the government has provided additional funding support, such as the Intervention Fund, Smart Automation Grant, to upgrade our Malaysia's players' technical competencies through the adoption of automation. We are proud to share that the Smart Automation Grant has received overwhelming response from our local companies that are keen to modernize their operation to remain competitive and resilient. Ladies and gentlemen, beyond project approvals, the government through MIDA has also established a dedicated project, what we call the Project Acceleration and Coordination Unit, or in short, PACU, to facilitate the implementation of investment projects in Malaysia. This initiative, coupled with an Invest Malaysia portal, provides investors a considerable ease of doing business by expediting the application submission and approval, as well as the implementation processes. Furthermore, in responding to the need for investors to enter our borders for business purposes during the pandemic, Malaysia launched its Business Traveller Centre, or BTC in short, at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport KLIA, the BTC is one of the main components of the one-stop center for foreign business travelers into Malaysia. It is now fully functional to welcome the entry of short-term business travelers. This one-stop center initiative assumes a critical role in ensuring that Malaysia remains steady on the path of economic recovery by enabling business travelers entry permission and movement to attend to their business activities in Malaysia during this pandemic. We are optimistic that these measures will solidify Malaysia's position as a competitive and profitable investment destination in line with our national investment aspiration to propel the country's long-term growth through the flow of sustainable quality investment in new and complex growth areas well beyond the current COVID-19 situation. Please do take the full advantage of all the packages available, particularly those offered through MIDA to facilitate investment and businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, we are confident that Malaysia will be able to ride out the storm with the right policies and measures in place in rebuilding the economy. Malaysia will solidify our position as a regional E&E center. We seek to strengthen the business landscape that will drive our long-term transformation into a fully industrialized and advanced nation. We welcome investments of complex and high value-added products, intensification of R&D activities, adoption of digitalization and new technologies. Malaysian companies are also encouraged to participate in the greater E&E value chain, especially in closing the ecosystem gaps, such as in IC design, advanced IC packaging, engineering and testing services, as well as electronic manufacturing services or EMS. To do so, there is a need for higher emphasis for industry players to leverage on design and research and development activities as part of their strategy to move up the value chain. These sustainable efforts could reduce dependence on imported technologies while creating our very own Malaysian niche. R&D activities are essential tools to diversify businesses and achieving advancement in tech know-how by creating new and enhancement of materials, processes, and products. MIDA is very keen to have E&E companies enhancing their digital network in Malaysia using Lighthouse analog. Lighthouse refers to industry players that have successfully implemented smart manufacturing technology from pilot to integration at scale, thus achieving significant financial and operational benefits. These lighthouses act as beacons to guide their supply chain and domestic companies to apply technologies like AI, additive manufacturing, and advanced analytics to overcome challenges in existing production system. We hope that more E&E companies would participate in MIDA's Lighthouse program and support local companies, some present here today, to integrate into the Lighthouse network, embracing innovation and operational efficiency that will eventually benefit Malaysia's economic ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end, let me reiterate and assure our investors, particularly our E&E industry players, that the government through MIDA is committed in rebuilding a stronger and more competitive Malaysia beyond the current COVID-19 pandemic. With this goal in mind, MIDA as your business partner will do our level best to support and facilitate your undertakings to success. Together, we can play our part to position Malaysia as the strategic investment location in Asia. Let us make full use of this opportunity and the time that we have today. With that, I wish everyone a fruitful and productive event. I thank you.
Thank you, Encik Arham, for the keynote speech. A gentle reminder for all the participants in this meeting room kindly mute your mic, and we actually created a chat box for the purpose of posting up your questions to minimize disruptions. Thank you for your cooperation. All right, the moment that we have been eagerly waiting for has now arrived. Let me introduce to all of you the moderator for today, also another pioneer for the E&E industry. Please join me to welcome Dr. Peng Su Hong, the Vice President 1 of the MSIA. Dr. Peng is currently serving as the Vice President and Managing Director of First Solar, Malaysia. Prior to that, Dr. Peng was attached to Intel Corporation and had served the company for 17 years after graduating from the university. With him are the three panelists for today. Please welcome Mr. Yoganaidu Sivanchalam, the Country Managing Director of Texas Instruments Malaysia, Mr. Ng Kok Tiong, the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Infineon Technologies Kulim Sanjam Berhad, and Mr. Gusharan Singh, the Senior Vice President, Global Backend Operations of Micron. I now pass the time to Dr. Peng, who will facilitate the dialogue for today, seizing the next wave of E&E investment into Malaysia. Over to you, Dr. Peng.
Thank you, Sally, for the introduction, and good morning and welcome everyone to the panel discussion session. Definitely, I want to echo Inje Arham's comment just now, which is very, very true that Malaysia is reopening and looking into more investment and more strategic investment into Malaysia. And I believe and I do have the confidence that we can do it again and we can do it better and we can rise again because of the good history and the good work that has been done so far, especially for MIDA, who has set up the one-stop center to help the investor to set up the business over here. Right. Without further ado, let me go straight into the Mr. Yogan, Mr. Gush, and also Mr. Kitty. You all have been in Malaysia for long. You have a very rich history in Malaysia as well. So can you just talk about your experience in investing in Malaysia and also your manufacturing experience in Malaysia? Why don't we start from Yogan, then Gush, then Kitty. Yogan, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you to MSIA and also MIDA for organizing this particular event. It really clearly shows that both government and also the association wants to get together for the growth. And again, like what the webinar title says, right? We got to take the opportunity with the current wave. The wave is here right now, and we got to ensure that Malaysia makes a good benefit of the current wave. So introducing myself, I'm the country manager for Texas Instrument. Texas Instrument has been in Malaysia for almost 50 years right now. We're actually at the year 49, and next year we'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary here in Malaysia. We are based both in KL and also Malacca. Both sites are hitting 50 years next year. And our key market on industrial, automotive, and also to a certain extent, personal electronic. The factory in Ulu Klang is been here in Ampang, and we have about 3,000 employees, while the factory in Malacca have about 2,000 employees. Over the last 50 years, we have grown stronger. And there's also huge commitment in terms of future investment in Malaysia. And we're looking forward in terms of how do we work with both local agency and also state government in terms of pushing through our investment in Malaysia. I have to say that throughout the pandemic, we've been working very close with the both agencies and government. And as much I would like to say, it has been a rough, I would say a rough situation over the last 6 months, but with the support of and also influence with the government agency, getting E&E part of the essential list has been very critical for us. So I want to say thank you, and we got to make sure that this is something that we can convince our HQ and also convince our investor to continue to invest here in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thanks, Jorgen. So firstly, Mr. Arham, Datu Siri S.H. Wang, Datu Pang, my panelist colleagues, participants, and the press colleagues, thank you very much, and very good morning to you. I'm Gursharan Singh, Senior Vice President of Global Assembly and Test at Micron Technology. It's my privilege to be invited as one of the panelists and joining my esteemed industry colleagues to share my thoughts on today's topic. First, allow me to share a little bit background about Micron and our operations in Malaysia. Micron is the global leader in memory and storage. We are the first in the industry to ship 176-layer NAND in 2020, as well as the first to unveil the 1-alpha node DRAM technology in 2021. So that establishes our leadership, and we are very pleased to have our operations in Malaysia. And I'll give you a little bit more background on that. We first entered Malaysia in 2010 with the setup of our Muar Johor facility that assembles and tests Micron's legacy products, which are the multi-chip packages as well as the NOR technology for the mobile as well as the automotive markets. And in 2018, we announced a greenfield investment of $350 million to establish Micron's Center of Excellence for solid-state drive assembly and test in Batu Kawan, Penang. Concurrently, we leased a site where in Praia, Penang in 2019, where we started our recruitment as well as training and for the manufacturing activities. Fast forward in 2021, our first building in Batu Kawan was commissioned, and we have grown our total headcount to about 4,000 team members across Malaysia. And very proud to share that 99% of our talent is local Malaysian citizens, and we continue to grow our organization there. I'm also delighted to share that Micron has decided to invest in the construction of our second building in middle of the COVID-19 pandemic environment, and we plan to expand our local operations. And this new expansion will enable Micron to be able to have wafers in, solid state drives out, and wafers in, and the DRAM modules out. So wafers in, finished product out capability set up in our facilities. The construction of our second building has already commenced, and we are expected to be commissioning the factory or manufacturing by end of 2022. We will also be generating another 2,000 jobs over the next 3 to 4 years in Malaysia. And we continue to stay very focused on developing local skill set, working with the university, working with all our partners in the area. We are committed in the development of local talents and have been a close partner in the Penjana hiring initiatives and the technical and vocational education training TVET program. So we have been taking full advantage of that capability there. As you can see, Micron's growth in Malaysia is rapid, and we look forward to closer collaborations with the Malaysian government, with MIDA, with local semiconductor ecosystem to fuel new technology in device experiences and infrastructure innovation across the data center and the intelligent edge market segments ahead of us. So thank you very much. Over to Katie.
Yeah, thank you, Gus. First of all, good morning to all. I would like to also thank MIDA and MSIA for inviting Infineon to speak at this event. So in the next 5 minutes, I will just quickly touch on a few things, wanting to also introduce Infineon briefly, and also share our experience of how Infineon has grown over time in Malaysia. So maybe just a few points to describe the company. I would say that Infineon is a global leading semiconductor player with 8.5 billion euro revenue in financial year 2020. So I would say that based on the market analysis, Infineon is ranked with market share for #1 for automotive semiconductors, and also #1 for power, discrete, and modules, and also #1 for security IC. So I would say that Infineon is a world leader in semiconductor solution that wants to make life easier, safer, and greener for everyone. So microelectronic from Infineon is the key for better future. We want to be part of your life, part of tomorrow. So that's a little bit on the Infineon. And next I move on to also share a little bit when did Infineon started in Malaysia and how it has grown over time. So 47 years ago, Infineon called Malaysia our home. And since then, of course, we have grown from one facility of assembly and test in Malacca to now a full-fledged semiconductor manufacturing. With now facility beside Malacca, we have it now also in Kulim, a wafer fab. First of its kind built, newly built in Asia outside of Europe, which we are very proud. And we have also a facility in Penang and also Ipoh. So our function in Malaysia comprise of wafer manufacturing, wafer fabrication, assembly and test, R&D, strong R&D. In fact, in Malacca, we have the global packaging center, and also some global function like finance, IT in Malaysia. So I think that is really quite a big growth compared to some years back. So next, I want to touch on some figures, how much Infineon has invested and what impact to Malaysia. So go into some figure, I would say that to date, we have invested more than 20 billion Malaysian ringgit in Malaysia and created more than 13,000 jobs, of which many of them are high income jobs. And I also want to say that Infineon has more employees in Malaysia than any other country worldwide, including even more employees than our headquarters in Germany. So that is also show that how much confidence the company has placed in Malaysia. So I would say that Infineon has also contributed just some figure about 5 billion Malaysia ringgit in export value under the Malaysia E&E sector in 2020. So we typically spend about 2 billion ringgit, Malaysian ringgit, annually in expansion and also running our operation. So indirectly, this is also benefiting the local semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem. And the other point I want to raise is also to share is why Infineon continue to invest in Malaysia. So I already mentioned that we have the most employee. The other thing is that also worth to mention here is Infineon being a German company, we headquartered in Munich. Typically take some time to evaluate option before making investment decision. But when a decision is made, you can count on Infineon to keep the investment commitment, and very often even exceed the planned investment commitment that have been announced. I think MIDA can verify that. And trust is very important. That's another key element, and often take a longer time to build trust between the headquarters and the local leadership team. So I say that looking back, as I have been with the company for 32 years now, I'm also very proud to say that the key leadership position for Infineon in Malaysia are with local Malaysian. And I think that this is really for me a big development that I think that Infineon Malaysia can be very proud in all the facility that we have. So finally, I also want to touch on how do we address the topic of talent. So this is also maybe for sharing. I think for any company, talent, of course, is a key success factor. Unfortunately, it's still a big concern for us, especially in some specific area of expertise, especially new vehicle technology development. I think there we are also very thankful with the strong support from Malaysian government, which has enabled us to send Malaysian employee to Europe for transfer of technology, for competency training and upscaling. The right talent is key, and that is also contributing to why Infineon has been successful in Malaysia. So in summary, I would say that Malaysia needs to get COVID situation under control very soon without further major supply chain disruption. I think this is really bad. I would say that, and with the strong support of Malaysian government, I'm also confident that Infineon will stay long-term in Malaysia, as we will continue to expand and also develop new technology to seize the opportunity of the current strong demand of semiconductor, also with the current shortage situation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Yogan, Gush, and Katie. So let me go through. Katie, you have a good comments about the pandemic because the year 2020 and the 2021, I believe everyone will remember these 2 years. Unprecedented years that we have to go through together. So maybe Gush, this one you can actually start first is what have you all done differently in managing the pandemic? And it is also very critical because it's not just about operation management, but it is really about keeping the team intact, motivate the people. Beside fulfilling the corporate need, I believe there's also a lot of works that everyone have done a lot to help the local community, especially we talk about the CSR program. So Gush, can you start to talk about the effort that you have done so far in these two sectors, and also talk about what have you partnered with the government to help to curb the pandemic?
Sure, Dato'. So first of all, when COVID-19 hit us, we took leadership position to develop a very strong protocol in our China facility, and we made sure and we worked and we believe in the key strategy that every team member must go home safely to family, and we put very stringent controls in place to keep our team members safe, to keep their families safe, as well as our facilities safe. So that is the very first one. And our EHS team at every site, starting from China, in the US, in Malaysia, all sites followed the guidelines. And actually we shared openly with our business partners, our subcontractors, as well as our vendors that were supporting the business, and we got their support to be very, very strict and be stringent about applying those measures. So that is the one step which has really produced huge results for us. And thanks to the Malaysian government here also putting E&E as essential services, and we were able to, maintaining this protocol, we were able to run our business and continue to support our customers. So that is very key. And going forward, Micron truly believes in the COVID-19 vaccines, the science associated there, and feel that they are best tools available today to protect our workforce and local communities from the spread of COVID-19. So we are increasing our efforts to encourage all team members who are able to receive vaccine to get shots, including the goal of 100% vaccination rate for our all sites. And of course, there are approved medical and religious exemptions that we respect. So I'm pleased to report that currently, following the public-private partnership for COVID-19 industry immunization program, PICAS, with a network of 21 other manufacturing companies in Batu Kawan vicinity, we were able to provide vaccine with the working with the protocol, and we administered the vaccine for minimum disruption to business. So 16,000 essential economic frontliners in the tech manufacturing sector, including over 4,000 Micron team members and contractors, have been vaccinated under this program. So I think that is a great achievement for government as well as for the private sector collaboration. And I'm very pleased to share with you that currently our Penang facility has 90% two vaccinations already administered. Our Muar facility is at 99%. And in addition to that, our custodial contractors are at 96 to 98% already, and we make sure that we are partnering with them. In addition, I would also say that we are institutionalizing that going forward, starting right now, all new hires will be 100% vaccinated before joining Micron. So these are some of the practices I'm sharing with you.
Thank you, Gush, for the sharing. Katie, anything from you for this topic?
Yeah, maybe just add a little bit. I think, this COVID thing, you can never have this experience to handle. So when it first kicked in last year in March, I think that it was quite chaotic, be it the factories are also with the authority. So I would say that the MCO 1.0 was not so big impact. But in the last 2 months, I think the cases in Malaysia has shot up quite a bit. I think this is where I think being the biggest operation for Infineon in Malaysia, we also suffer some impact. So I think the biggest impact is this shutdown of factories. I think this has a big impact because typically takes time to recover. And then also not just that company is suffering. I think a lot of us we have also our supply chain also very much affected. For example, some of our subcon and some of our material supplier. If the factory is shut down, we are also affected. So I think that is true. Also looking forward to this direction of the government to treat COVID from pandemic to endemic, and also pushing up the vaccination rate. And hopefully there will be no more shutdown of factory, but provide or install the right SOP. So I also glad to say that Infineon Malacca, we have more than 96% of the employee fully vaccinated. So another for Kulim as well, I think we have for those who have at least 1 dose, also in the range of 96%. So in the next 2 weeks, I think we will also reach very high level. So these are the big facility for Infineon. And I think that along the way, we have also very much putting in some contingency because we never know how many employees are under quarantine. So this is also just to make sure that we can continue to operate with less impact. But if the quarantine number, I think quarantine on one hand is also good because you want to quickly identify risky employee and then put them in quarantine so that it don't have the local transmission in the factory. So that's a little bit how we handle it. I think it would be an experience, and we typically joke we don't want to use this experience anymore in the years to come. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Katie. Jürgen, anything to add on this?
Yeah. How did TI deal with this position last 2 years? To begin with, I guess having 100% local, it is off from us having any hostel. So that is an advantage. So we don't have any potential employees staying in a certain hotspot location. So that's a plus point. But I wanted to tell that the association of E&E really came together at the beginning of the pandemic. A lot of us came together sharing what are we doing internally with each companies, what are we learning from our global companies, and we brought all these best practices together and say, okay, these are the things we should be fanning in for each one of the companies. And with that, we created an SOPs that say that this is going to be the blueprint of keeping E&E operations safe, right, operationally. And that actually made us survive until what happened over the last 3 months. Right? Last 3 months has been a pain. And
Hello, 聽到。是 sorry 哈
A gentle reminder, can the participants, attendees of this meeting, to mute your mic at all times? Thank you.
Okay, sorry, please continue.
Okay, no problem. And so we're talking about how the E&E industry really step forward, thanks to again the chambers and also MCR coming up together, and also working very closely with MIDA in this case. It helped us, and over the last 3 months or maybe 4 months, right, the push of vaccination. So again, fortunate enough that TI was one of the companies which was the pilot for PCAS. And today we are living with almost 98% fully vaccinated. And I have to say that even though we are vaccinated, all the employees are vaccinated, cases will not be zero. Quarantine will still be there. We will have our employees getting tested positive. The good thing here is it's within category 1 and category 2. So I always encourage everyone, right? Everyone who's running a large organization or a small organization, encourage the employees to be vaccinated. Regardless whether cases are going to go down or not, it depending on the community spread, but the risk of them getting into category 3, 4, and 5 is close to zero, right? What else we did during the pandemic, like what Grush mentioned earlier, right? So we work with the local as well, looking at in terms of how do we support our local. There's huge fund came in terms of CSR initiative, right? Working with the government, especially in the hospitals. We donated a lot of PPEs to the hospital. In fact, we also give some level of PPEs to the schools when they started beginning 3rd quarter last year. So that keep the community closer despite us needing to operate. And that's how we manage over the last 1-2 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I would like to echo, in fact, Jürgen, you take me back to 2020 when we start talk about forming a EHS committee to put in all the good practices, and that is where we started to have the E&E industry SOP, not only for the company but also for our suppliers to follow. That is actually one of our key success. That we do have cases in the factory. However, I think we actually help to minimize the spread within the factory in the E&E industry. And of course, a lot more to do. And now is like Katie mentioned, we are into the endemic, and we have to live together with the virus. And it will not say that no one will get impacted or transmitted with the virus, but we just need to learn how to manage that. Okay, I would like to stop here for the past and the current and move into the future. Engineer Arham, you have talked about the strategy as how to attract high impact, high technology, and also strategic investment into Malaysia. I do echo with you. These are all the actions that we have to do to make sure that we continue to grow not only our economy sector, but also to grow our talent. And I'll ask about the talent later. But based on our experience through this pandemic management and action plans that going to put in to attract more investors into Malaysia, can you elaborate about the strategies and also certain action plans that what will make the potential investor to believe that Malaysia is still an attractive place to invest?
Thank you, Dr. Peng. Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, Malaysia still an attractive location. Let me share with you why. Number one, Malaysia is the epicenter for the Asia semiconductors footprint. In addition to the strategic location, as well as the comprehensive infrastructure, which include ports, airports, highways, and logistics as well, we offer a very competitive advantages in terms of the cost of doing business. And at the same time, Malaysia has signed about 16 free trade agreements, and of that 16, 14 FTAs has been came into effect. And recently, we already concluded RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So by having all these FTAs, Malaysia is any companies, multinational in particular, who have operation in the country, they will have access of 1/3 of the world population, where 1/3 of the GDP and whatnot. That is number one. The epicenter, Malaysia is the epicenter for the semiconductor. Secondly, in terms of the workforce, even though Katie mentioned that workforce in terms of human talent, the skilled talent is still an issue, in terms of the shortage, we cannot really, we have challenges in terms of meeting the demand. But for what we have now, we have been recognized globally in terms of our talent. These Malaysian talents are highly adaptive, they are trainable, talented, and in terms of languages, at least Malaysian can speak 2 languages, their mother tongue as well as English, or Indian, Chinese, the Tamil and whatnot. So just want to share, this is something, the Taiwanese government recently on the 26th of August, they launched an e-recruitment drive to pinch our high-level talent from Malaysia to work in the semiconductor industry. So this indicates that they recognize the capability in terms of our talent, in terms of our workforce and whatnot. So Malaysia talents are highly regarded, especially in the semiconductor industry. Thirdly, why Malaysia is still an attractive, based from the international ranking, we have a very good rank there, number 2 in terms of the protecting investor, based from the World Bank, ease of doing business, we are number 2. Within the ASEAN, we are also number 2, the report today. And then in terms of the protecting minority businesses and whatnot. So based from this international ranking, place Malaysia in the very good ranking. So this, indicate that Malaysia is an attractive location and for the investors. And in terms of supply chain, we have created in terms of MIDA, the government of Malaysia, we have been adopting for the last many years the ecosystem approach when we entice MNCs come to the country. So we have successfully developed a complete, so-called ecosystem for semiconductor, where we have from front end, back end, we have this in place. There might be some little gaps here and there. So based from the ecosystem approach, we were able to get, or we will be able to identify who are the right investor who can fill in the gaps within the ecosystem. So the supply chain, the capability, the facilitation, the policies in place, which, we are pro-business government, our policy, we have been liberalizing our policy for military sector. This is 100% equity is allowed for the foreign companies and whatnot. So these are the things, these are some of the justifications, factors why Malaysia is still a very attractive location for MNCs, in particular the semiconductor. So that is my take, Dr. Peng.
Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Arham. Attracting new investment definitely is important as we continue to attract new technology, to develop the country's economy. But focusing on reinvesting or reinvestment in country from the current investor is also very important. Jürgen, Gus, and Katie, you all talk about your expansion plan 2020-2021. But moving forward, what kind?
Dear
Can the
attendees
person
of
mute
this
your phone?
meeting, please mute your mic.
Okay, so what would be your reinvestment strategy moving forward, and what would be the areas that you are going to focus on in terms of what I mean? Ease of doing business is definitely one, ecosystem is one, but what are the other key elements that you are looking at to continue to invest in Malaysia? Anyone? Maybe Katie, this one you start first.
Okay. So I would say that I told you already we are big in Malaysia, and I think going forward, looking back, if you now look into the macroeconomic of Malaysia, I think one thing is of value is of course stable. So not to say that I think this element of stability of the macroeconomic is important. Although in cases of political change, sometimes also triggers some uncertainty. But so far, even in the last few years, we find that the macroeconomic is stable. And if you now look into also inflation, if you now want to compare to some countries in the neighboring countries, I think Malaysia has a good, has a low inflation rate. And with that, if you now look into also the cost increase, I think that it's somehow acceptable. Of course, I would say that if you now want to compare just item to item, you would be able to find another country that have one item better than the other one. The fact that if you now put everything together, and including COVID, you can also say that yes, we have some factory shutdown, but you know there is probably not a country that is not affected by COVID at all. So all in all, I think that Malaysia, including what Mr. Arham has mentioned in terms of the conducive government environment, I think that for Infineon still remain a very attractive place to invest. And anyway, we are already here. But going forward, I would say that post COVID, I think some learning we have to take. For example, we have a big facility with a lot of employees, how to still continue to grow, but without growing so much the manpower. Then we will have to now talk about how to go into more in terms of smart manufacturing, taking advantage of AI, taking advantage of further automation as much as possible, because this is definitely a big learning out of the COVID situation. I think a lot more potential, including remote work. So, you know, this will also transform from previously that we all show up in the office, but, you know, some of the topic you can also do it from anywhere, even when you're drinking a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So that's a little bit, I think that for Infineon, Malaysia is still attractive for us to expand and even bring in new technology into Malaysia. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So Gus, why don't you talk about talent development? Because one of the questions that come in is about we are moving into Industry 4.0, and we are going to have a lot of upskilling needed, especially to upskill and upgrade our people's technical skill to match the expectation of the Industry 4.0. So how do your companies upskill your talent pool to transition into Industry 4.0 kind of environment?
Okay, so as you know, we have started pretty much greenfield, and our main effort has been to hire local talent, train, and I would say pretty much starting the factory using new college graduates and making having the level of engagement with the universities to develop the curriculum that is more adaptable to our business. And us being the technology company, engineering talent is very, very key for us. And the only way we can develop that is working with the universities and developing that partnership we have and bringing in new college graduates, bringing trainers from overseas, other facilities from our network, and uplifting that skill set. So that has been our approach, and we have been able to do that very, very successfully. Now, the challenges we have is when you need factory workers, I think there's definitely an opportunity for us to be able to bring foreign workers, and that availability is hindering for us to uplift and be able to ramp up our manufacturing more faster. So there is that opportunity. Second point, I would deviate a little bit from the talent is that we have environment where we work with other agencies, such as in Singapore, we are working closely with the EDB. So from our experience point of view, MIDA is very, very interactive, and we have great relationship. We have ease to engage. But I think in our business, time to market is key. And there is definitely an opportunity to us to be able to enhance that our investment approvals and moving faster in that direction. And that is pretty much tied to bringing in additional talent, technology, R&D, as well as the developing the ecosystem in the country. And as I said, in our business, our dependency on the ecosystem is very key, and that is to attract additional suppliers. For example, if we are building high-end products, it's very important that we get local support from our vendors as well as from our component suppliers in the food chain. And substrate supply is very critical for our business, and we continue to attract that into the country to make it a lot more desirable. Not only for us, our success is also associated with developing ecosystem around us. So I deviated from your question a little bit. I just wanted to share my experience here.
Yeah, thank you, Ghosh. In fact, I will come back to the group again later, talk about the local supply chain and the ecosystem development, because this is also key for us to move into the future. But Yogan, I think this is the question that I pick up from the chat, which is, how do you describe the ratio of R&D manufacturing capabilities here in Malaysia? With 49 years, congratulations, a solid 49 years of your existence in Malaysia, moving into 50 next year. So congratulations. So how do you describe this ratio of R&D and the manufacturing capabilities? Personally, I think there are still a lot more to do that relate to the talent, and that also relate to our local capabilities. So would you like to comment about that, and how can we make it more attractive to bring in more R&D into Malaysia?
Okay, so you're asking a spot-on question here. 49 years in Malaysia, and we are looking for a longer growth and commitment here in Malaysia. First of all, this is not given. This has to be earned. I have to say that, right? All the investment that we are getting here in Malaysia is not given. It's not a blank check that next 10 years, the manufacturing or the company in Malaysia is going to be given certain investment, but we are earning this through making sure we are globally competitive with our internal factories itself. That comes with a lot of effort in terms of having innovation and also breakthrough locally and also globally. That ties back to having a local design team, having a local breakthrough team, and also having a local R&D team here to ensure that we are able to have capability in terms of the next product design and making sure that it is competitive to the market. So if you talk to me about the ratio, I will say it has grown over the last 8 to 5 years. And as some of you guys may aware, in Malacca, we are starting up a new greenfield building, right? That's going to be one of the most advanced manufacturing sites that we're going to have. And with that growth, we are initiating a lot of local R&D talent, right? This group will grow. And as much as that group is growing, we are working closely with universities. Gus did mention that how do we influence universities in terms of tailoring their subject to what is needed reality in the current environment. So we are working with multiple universities together with the deans and also lecturers in terms of how do we provide direct training, direct access to certain technologies and also equipment, making sure that when these students comes to the site, they have at least a basic foundation with regards to what we have here in factory. So to answer, to summarize, it is growing. We all know that this is an area that we need to start investing, and we are getting the right support structure with regards to talent in university. I do expect that this will be the foundation as we gain more investment in Malaysia.
Thank you, Jürgen. So
but
let
if
me
I
go
may,
back.
Dato' Peng, maybe I will
Yeah,
also
sure.
add a bit. I would say that my experience is this is a lot more to do with also the maturity of the site. So like, for example, give an example, for example, in Pinion Kulim, we started off the Feb 2006. So it was more like a technology transfer. So you do a lot of transfer of new technology coming from Europe. But in the meantime, as people become more and more competent, so, and the thing is, how does the leadership team make the workforce very hungry to do more because you are now more competent? So, right, true enough, I think that recently we have also started technology development in Kulim. Same thing, I think, in Malacca, when I was running the assembly and test, I think at one time, you know, the power packaging center is in Regensburg in Germany. And we were doing some transfer, but today, Malacca is the global packaging center. So this, for me, come with the also the maturity of the site. I think people in general become more competent, they want to do more. And I think that if you make the workforce hungry, a lot of topic will come, because I think that there are still other advantages compared, let's say, for example, in Pinion, in terms of the factor cost, of course, Malacca of Malaysia is still very attractive compared to Germany. So I think there is still lots of opportunity for Malaysia, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I kind of go back to your earlier sharing, Katie. I think there's part of the trust between the corporate with the local. There's no entitlement. There's not to say that you have been here for that long, so you will get something. There's no free lunch. Yeah. So basically, yeah, definitely the trust, the effort, maturity, those are the key elements that will continue to bring in the new capability into Malaysia. But having said so, I scanned through the questions from the chat group. I can also summarize a few questions which are related to the talent also. While Malaysia talent is everywhere in the world, but here in Malaysia, we are really fighting and looking hard for the talent to bring in on site to do what we want them to do. I think there are still certain gaps that we are seeing in terms of the local the talents available for us to hire. So from the talent management, talent development standpoint, Gush, maybe you have something to also talk about, continue from what you shared just now. A more high-skilled talent development. what do we need to do to bring the talent or to attract the right talent back to Malaysia, especially for those who are in overseas? And also, what do we need the university to do differently to, I'm not sure, should I say it, upgrade the curriculum or change the curriculum to be more industrial-like, more so that we can really develop the right talent.
Dr. Pang, I think you hit on the nail that in collaboration with the companies, and just like, here we have Infineon, Texas Instrument, Micron, and there are many others, and developing, co-developing a curriculum, and also having a rotation programs in which we are very interested to work with the young professionals and getting industry experience. I mean, you become engineer when you're working in the field. So that collaboration can benefit tremendously, and it's a win-win situation to make young professionals more successful, and it also fills our desire to have more talent locally available. And I would also add to that, that as Micron is growing in Malaysia, first of all, I would state that Malaysia is part of our network with very strategic investments to make sure that we do our research and development locally to be able to cater to our requirements. So that is very much aligned to make sure that curriculums are supporting our requirement, and that applies to all of us here in the semiconductor business. So I would say, in short, that is key to have more and government participation, and we are very, very supportive to make sure we are participating in developing curriculum, as well as even sending our professionals to go share our experience in the universities. So more enhanced government initiatives to bridge that, that we work together more towards enhancing the curriculum will be key here.
Thank you, Gush. And Katie, one of the key, I think one of the key points that you talk about hungry, right? Getting the people need to be hungry. But I also believe that in this context, we also need the universities to be hungry as well. So that they can really match to the industry expectation. It's not to say that they are not, but to me, I hope I don't get into trouble. But to me, I think it's more like how to enable the university to be part of the industry's ecosystem, especially when we are moving into the high-tech and high-impact industry, as Engineer Arham was mentioning. So what will be one or two key points that you may want to bring it to the universities or the higher ed ministry, so that we can really at least get Malaysia back to track, and we will develop the talent and keep the talent in Malaysia. I think keeping the talent in Malaysia, the industry will have to do what we need to do, but and partner with government. But then what do we need to do to really develop the right talent for the industry?
Yeah, talent is one of my favorite topic, So I say that every company somehow also have something to do with a university. I'm sure all the company here. So you're doing something with a university. So at the moment, I'm also the chairman of SFARM. We are talking a little bit about also how we come together as all the fabs, wafer fab together to somehow come up with a syllabus that all of us recognize, that I do not need to now go and recruit somebody from my competitor or from another wafer fab. And the other one is also for people who are now in a different sector, not in the fab, working in the fab, but maybe like in the electronic sector, that they want to actually now maybe join the fab, as the semiconductor is also now outlook for the demand is also increasing. I think we have to find some way how to now do it a little bit bigger as a industry or sector rather than individually with the university. I think university, we also have something with Utah, where we have, instead of a 4-year course, we do it 3-year, where Infineon offer like 12 to 18 months of attachment. But I still think that this is a bit too slow to generate a bigger pool of talent for us as we are growing. So somehow, either through MSIA or, for us in the SFARM, Semiconductor Fabrication Association, we want to do something together in that direction, of course, together with some government agency. So hopefully with that, give us a little bit of the things of doing things a little bit different, and hopefully can also generate more talent, and also able to take talent from other industry who want to convert and join the fab, be working in the fab. So that's a little bit the thinking. We are still working on it as farm and see how we want to do it to make it more successful.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Katie.
Dr. Peng, can I just add?
Yeah, sure, Dr. Sri. In fact, I actually have a question for you, but you just jump in.
I just want to add about the talent, because one of the key issues Malaysia is facing is the number of students pursuing STEM, science and engineering. During our time, it's like 50-60%. Now is like in the maybe 30% or less. Okay, so if we don't encourage more children and students to pursue science and engineering, our numbers will continue to drop, and then you continue to invest to attract more high-value investment. MIDA is doing that. We all be struggling for scientists and engineers. So we have a very fundamental problem that we work on. While currently we can work on whatever we are working on, but longer term we need to work on this issue. If not, if we can't work on this issue, then we have to follow other countries like Singapore, Taiwan, China, US, using other people's talent. So we need to have a strategy, maybe working in parallel to support the industry. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really definitely. I know this is one of the your passion and one of the topics that you keep pushing. But I really echo that. And in fact, Jürgen, one of the questions that put up is supply chain, right? What is the strategy in place to scale global supply chain to support the growth of E&E industry? However, I would like to modify this question a little bit. Instead of to scale the global supply chain, I would say that what would be the local supply chain system that can be done differently to help to support the need of MNC in Malaysia? So Jürgen, please, and Gus, I'll come to this. I'll come to you after Jürgen's response.
Yeah. So if we wanted to grow here, support system need to be strong. And having said that, having local supply chain growing with us is going to be extremely critical. And I guess one of the way of ensuring our local supply chain is growing with us is to make sure that we share our vision with them, right? If they don't have our vision in terms of how to grow, they don't know where to invest as well. So having strong collaboration, partnership earlier in the stage is going to be critical. Like how we are investing in our growth is basically looking at how's the market reacting. Same goes to our local suppliers, I would say, yeah, I will not say they are SMEs, I would say they are local suppliers. We got to have early engagement in terms of to show them the growth roadmap. And roughly based on that, they should be able to have some level of investment strategy for them. And the next thing here is as we get into local supplier to join a chain of manufacturing, right? They have an access to go global as well. So bringing them into the ecosystem of an MNC and scaling them up to a local global supplier is going to be critical. So as a local supplier, they got to able to look at how much they can, if they want to enter I will say, for example, if someone wants to enter TI or another company, right? If they come in here, they got to look at how they can eventually, right, extend to TI outside Malaysia, right? And for them to do so, how can they scale up? and what kind of help they need. And these are the things that we need to partner together. So it's not going to be one way, it has to be two ways. As the customer and also as the supplier, they got to work together in terms of partnering for the growth. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gus. Well, you wanted to comment on that because I think one of the works that Micron is doing is also to really develop the local supply chain, besides just bring in the global players into Malaysia.
Absolutely. So our mantra there is localization. Localization, including, to Yogan's point, developing the ecosystem for our supply chain, and then start reaching more deeper into it. As you are pumping more air in the tube, it grows. That means our circle is growing, and we want to have as much localization as much possible. It's just develops the ecosystem. It creates more competitiveness, and it supports the supply chain as well as our dependency locally. So we don't. That's one of the mantra we are using. Examples. Our EMS partners locally, they are providing support to us. So we don't have to have complete 100% dependency internally. We can use the other partners in the in our vicinity or even within the network. Then we also develop research and development, meaning we can go out, work with the automation vendors as well as the local skill set available that makes our time to market and our operations a lot more efficient. So that's very, very key. I was talking about substrate. We are bringing in partners to come work in our backyard so that we have the supply chain supporting our business locally with the lesser level of dependency on the global suppliers. So it's all about localization. And then, of course, I earlier said about university collaboration. Developing that skill set is also part of the ecosystem that we are dependent on.
Thank you, Bruce. I think this is well. So this one, I would like to turn the question back to Encik Arham. Encik Arham, you talk about the lighthouse analogy, and you talk about Malaysia moving forward beyond the COVID-19. So based on the discussion that Yogan, Katie, and Gush has talked about, would you like to share about to stress again on the focus on the Malaysia's moving forward, because there's also another question coming in is beside Penang, that is already well known with the SME or the EME investment, where other states that can benefit from that, and can you please comment about that?
Thank you, Dato' Peng. Yeah, post-COVID-19, we always believe that Malaysia will be able to ride out the storm with the right policies and measures in place in rebuilding the economy post-COVID. So I hear very clearly, and actually we recognize among the issues faced by the multinational companies, in particular the semiconductor, is the talent. So I think Katie Gush has mentioned about the collaboration that they have undertaken, which also include taxes and whatnot. We encourage more collaboration between the companies, the industry player with the universities, in terms of getting the right talent for their operation. Not only for the new talent, but in the viewpoint of the government, we are also encouraging the skilling and upskilling. For those who are at the lower level, we want these people to upgrade their competency and talent to the higher level. So in this regard, Malaysian government has put in place quite a number of facilitation in terms of funding support, the like of a grant, training grant, R&D grant, and many others. So many of the major MSCs, they are aware of those facilitation, of those support that have been given by the government. For moving forward, Malaysia now, as I mentioned very briefly in my speech, we have this what we call the national investment aspiration moving forward. National investment aspiration under this new policy, whatever economic policy in the future will be based on this NIA. So under the NIA, we have identified, or our strategy will be attracting more high technology, high capital intensive, knowledge driven industry. And when we talk about high technology, it will encompass the complexity of the product, high value job opportunities, inclusivities, and I believe the government believes this is in line with the ESG, the environment, social, and governance. Based from our engagement with the industry player, those existing already in the country, they are exporting to Europe and whatnot. So all these countries, they have already the carbon-free policy, neutral by 2025, 2020. So how to support these existing companies to meet the requirement by the import countries? So Malaysia is also towards now more encouraging more on the renewable energy, the clean energy and whatnot to support those existing companies to meet the requirement by their import countries income when we talk about the ESG, environment, social and governance. Okay, so again on the supply chain, again we would be we want to encourage more local company, as mentioned by Yogan just now. Any Malaysian company want to be part of TI, they have to understand the value of the TI. So this is where again, thank you. This is a very important information that we can convey to the local company. For you to be part of the supply chain of the multinational company, they have to be ready and they have to value what would be the spirit and the the objective of that particular company, not only in Malaysia but other TI or Infineon or Micron in other part of the world. So we put in place all the support system for our Malaysian company to be to be able or to upgrade their capability to be part of supply chain. Again, facilitation. We have what we call the smart automation grant. We have domestic investment strategic fund for them to upgrade their capability in order for them to be part of the supply chain of the multinational company. So there are many others. I look forward to engaging with all those panelists as well as any other companies who want to explore Malaysia as part of their to be part of their the location. Very quickly on the lighthouse, based from the name of the lighthouse, we're talking about the beacon where we will identify anchor companies where they have already adopted or near to the full industry 4.0. By having this anchor company, they will be able to guide our Malaysian company to also embrace digital as well as the industry 4.0. So I believe this is part of the process of getting Malaysian company to be part of the supply chain. So Lighthouse program, I would like to share that it's quite recent, not even 1 year when we launched this. And for now, as of today, we have quite a number of response, very overwhelming response from some companies who want to be part of this Lighthouse program. So more information about this Lighthouse is available in our website, and do feel free to contact MIDA for more collaboration, more cooperation in that in this area. Thank you, Dr. Peng.
Thank you, Engineer Arham. Now, Engineer Arham made a very good summary about moving forward, and I believe he also touched on the ESG, sustainability, green energy. So maybe I'll start with Yogan on your comment about how TI approach the ESG and why you believe ESG is important and critical in doing business. Maybe this was something that we also need to bring it back to our local supply chain, local players, for them to embrace the ESG as one of the expectation as well.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. So I couldn't echo much regards to importance of ESG, and Mr. Arham mentioned that earlier. And this is going to be critical as we balance up our operations here in Malaysia. So I would say that it is important, and we got to play an important role in that.
Gus, comment from you?
Absolutely. So I pretty much echo. So what we are doing is we have corporate initiatives in this direction, and it's very important that we are totally environmental friendly and meet the so let me put it this way. Our Malaysia new factories, our initiatives are to have green factories. And that is the initiatives we are putting in place for water harvesting, to putting solar paneling right from the get-go, to have right level of environment, which is energy efficient. So we have similar initiatives across the globe at our manufacturing facilities. So we are very, very cognizant about the initiatives needed for us to uplift that requirements. And we have right initiatives. And actually, I would say this is one of the key metrics that Micron has adopted to make sure we are driving this initiative in the right direction.
Thank you, Ghosh. Katie, any comment from you? Katie, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think the ESG topic to say is important is understatement. I guess going forward, that's the only way to do business, to get investment, to even get maybe whether your company is preferred or not for with your customer and so on. So I would say that it's so important. And Infineon Corporate, we have also announced that we want to be a carbon neutral company by 2030, upfront announced. And in Europe, they even have started with green electricity for this year. So of course, this costs some money, but this is also one part of the ESG that we are doing. So I would say that this will be definitely the way going forward, including, I think, for Malaysia, as we are also in Kulim High Tech Park is also checking with Noor what is the roadmap for green energy or electricity. So I think that the way going forward, it will catch up, and it will be only requirement in order to be successful in business.
Thank you, Katie, for the comment. And in fact, I also want to jump in, talk about the ESG. MSIA is also very much focusing on the ESG, sustainability. And as a company, First Solar, we are producing a 2.5 gigawatt of solar power, solar module in Malaysia. However, we are not just providing the sustainability in terms of the solar panel for the energy generation, but we are doing a lot of water consumption. In future, I believe, and I do agree with Jürgen, Ghosh, and Katie, and Encik Arham, ESG is going to be the future measure for any company if you were to bring in more investor, if you were to do business globally. So watch out for the MSIA promotion and marketing. We are going to put up a plan to look into the ESG and sustainability so that we can bring the benefit to the members. Now, we are at the hour, and in fact, we actually kind of run over the 10 minutes, and I just want to use the rest of the 5 minutes to answer the to do the wrap up. So let me start with Jürgen. Do you have any last comment for the audience in terms of seizing the opportunity moving forward in Malaysia?
Thanks, Dr. Peng. So my closing comment is going to be, it's more important now than ever for industry players and our government to work closer and work together as a team and as a mutual stakeholder. Right? In this particular time period, you can win as a team, or eventually we may lose more investment as a team as well in Malaysia. Right, so that's my closing comment. So let's work together on this.
Yeah. Okay. Katie or Jürgen, sorry, Ghosh, you want to go ahead?
Surely. So first, I want to start with congratulating Arham on his elevation to CEO, and we look forward to establish more closer industry-wide relationship where the entire industry can benefit and get us to next level. So it's, as I was stating, Malaysia has become a critical component in our ecosystem, in our global footprint, and that's very, very important partnership for us. So despite the pandemic, we've established 2 facilities in 2 years. 99% of our workforce is local, and we continue to generate employment with our growth, which is through deep engagement with local agencies. And then I would also say countries' evolved electronic supply chain ecosystem, logistics, sustainable manufacturing infrastructure, and favorable business environment is very, very desirable. And our personal Micron's proximity to Singapore is very favorable. And it gives us opportunity to be able to train our new talent, newly acquired local talent, using our resources in Singapore. So I personally also want to thank the panelists and look forward to having more sessions. It's thanks for openly sharing. Thanks to Katie, Yogan, Dr. Siri, and Dr. Pang. Excellent job in really collaborating this event.
Thank you, Rosh. And Katie?
So I would say that just from Infineon perspective, I'm very confident with the advantage, cost factor advantage, and also conducive government support. I think that I'm confident that Infineon will stay long-term in Malaysia. But I think we should also think a little bit about that it's not by chance that we are now the global hub here. How to make sure as an industry and also with authority to make sure that whenever people think about investment of E&E or semiconductor, you think about Malaysia first. So I think that would be something that would continue to anchor, and hopefully government will continue to take semiconductor and E&E as a strategically important so that we continue to be successful here in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you. Engineer Arham, any closing comment from you?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peng. So MIDA will continue to identify, attract, and facilitate advanced technology knowledge base to the country. So as I mentioned just now, the National Investment Aspiration NIA, the semiconductor sector in the country fits very well in the criteria of the NIA framework, which emphasize on the R&D and as well as the technological advancement. So we are now working very closely and supporting all those some of the existing semiconductor companies with their expansion or the diversification project. So last sentence or last word from me, rest assured that the government is doing all that it can to support and facilitate investors impacted by the pandemic, as well as the MCOs through both fiscal and non-fiscal measures, as well as the facilitation. So always come back to MIDA. We are here 24/7 to assist you. Whatever issues, problem that you might have, through MIDA, we will channeling all those issues that you might have with other ministries and agencies. So that is my assurance for all the investors here.
Thank you, Engineer Arham. And before I wrap up the session, I would like to invite the man, Dr. Sri Wong, who has been very instrumental and play a very key role in helping us to get through the pandemic management, working with the ministry. And also, I believe he has some closing comment for us, especially listening to 1 hour's discussion from the panelists. So, Dr. Sri, would you like to have your closing remark and make sure that we know what to do next and what can we expect next?
Thank you very much, Dr. Peng. I think a lot of topics were discussed today, and I think there were many good ideas and way forward. You know, as we discussed, we heard from Arham, we heard from about the talent issue and so on. But I think our challenges has not ended. It is going to be there. And just now, I think Katie said that, or you're going to say that, hey, we got to figure out how to not close factories. The supply, the demand and the customers' orders are very high. I mentioned about the growth, you know, 25%, and the backlog is months. Okay, some of them even 1 year, whole year, and therefore we got to get the factory going. We got to get the talent and so on. So I think working together within and between the government and the MSIA members and the whole E&E industry, I think together we can march forward to overcome the challenges ahead. So I hope, you know, that what we have been doing in the past, that the government listen to industry, industry give feedback to the government. We keep doing that engagement. I think we can overcome the challenges, but it is still there for us to march forward, and hopefully we can seize all the opportunities that are right in front of us. Thank you very much, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sri, for your comment. And definitely here, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank MIDA, MOH, National Steering Council, and a lot of other agencies that I cannot mention in this short time that has helped us in managing this pandemic. We have gone through a tough period, and we have so make a very difficult, very tough decision. But I do hope that moving forward, like what Dato' Sri just mentioned, and a few others, which is let's continue to keep the business going. Do not close down the factory, but in fact, with the high fully vaccinated population, we should be able to manage better moving into the endemic situation. So here, I would like to just say thank you to all the panelists. Encik Arham, Dato' Sri, Katie, Yogan, and Gush for interesting and a very interactive discussion. And to the participants, to the audience, I know that there are still a lot of questions that we are not able to answer, but rest assured that MSIA team is going to look into every single questions, and we'll try to put up a response so that we can post it and we can respond to you. Right, so this is for sure a lot of very, very good questions that in fact it can become our action plan as well, right? Especially the talent development and also the local supply chain development. Those are very important for us to grow. And I would also like to end my session with the comment to say that everyone know that there are risks, there are opportunity, but when you have a risk, then you have a more opportunity. And the crisis, people say crisis, but crisis is a turning point. And the opportunities and the chances are actually for the people who are more prepared. So understand that this is a difficult situation, but as you hear what Encik Arham is mentioning and the rest of our panelists, you will have more opportunities coming in. So get prepared, get ready. When the door is open, I just hope, and my worry is we may not have time to react to the opportunity. So that's my closing comment for this session. Thank you very much. Xiaoli, over to you.
Thank you, panelists, for addressing some of the critical issues to elevate Malaysia as the E&E hub in the global market. All right, just a short announcement. There'll be this National E&E Forum coming up on 12th October. And it's organized by MSIA. So do sign up with MSIA. You can go to the website and get more updates. And we now come to the end of the webinar, seizing the next wave of E&E investment into Malaysia. Special thanks to the organizing team from MIDA and MSIA for making this webinar a successful event. Thanks to Encik Arham Abdul Rahman, Dr. Sri S.H. Wong, Dr. Peng Su Hong, Mr. Yogan Naidu, Mr. Ng Kok Tiong, and Mr. Gusharan for this engaging dialogue. I trust all of us have brought back some key points from our webinar today. Let's continue to keep this discussion going on our own platform, and hopefully together we will drive this pursuit. All right, and just before we leave this room, may I request that we take a moment to fill up the survey form that will pop up once you leave this meeting room. We hope to get some of your feedback so that we can serve you better the next round. Thank you for joining us. Until we see you the next time, wishing you all the best and stay safe wherever you are. And just a word from me, as we are celebrating Malaysia Day tomorrow, let's not forget that all of us have a role to play to bring out the best of this nation. Happy Malaysia Day
Thank you.
to everyone.
Thank you. Happy Malaysia Day.
Thank
Thank
you and
you.
happy Malaysia Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.